Hello and welcome to the One Life Church devotional series. We cover the entire Bible in 20 months. Well, today's chapters are Ezra 5 and 6. And what we see today is that we see prophets prophesying while people are working. And so here we are having our devotional while the builders are working outside my son's bedroom window. Now, the situation here was that building had stopped. And there was a problem, big problem. And so God raises up Haggai and Zechariah, two prophets, great prophets. And they prophesy, and it gives so much courage to Zerubbabel, the governor, and Joshua, the guy in charge of the priests, that they begin to rebuild even without permission. And so Tatanai, the governor of the Trans-Euphrates, comes and says, "What do you think you are doing? Who's given you authority? And let me take down the names." He's going to go and report them. So there must have been a fair degree of angst when they continued to build. But listen, what did they have? They had togetherness, which gave them courage. They had God's word spoken over them, which gave them courage. And they continued to build while this letter went to the king. And basically, this letter was, these Jews are doing it. They're making big progress. They're using big rocks. Everything looks like it's coming into fashion. And they say, King Cyrus gave them the decree, so please check, Honorable, Noble King Darius, whether this is actually true. Remember, they've stopped building for 15 years now. And so that ends chapter 5. And so in chapter 6, we see that they actually did find this decree. And this is what King Cyrus had said. He had said the temple must be rebuilt in its original place. Let the Jews, their governors and their elders, oversee the building. No one is to stop it. We to supply their resources through the royal treasury. And he says, if anybody steps in to stop them building, let them have a beam taken out of their house, stuck into the ground and impaled on it. And then this is what he says. And if any king after me tries to undo this law, remember the laws of the Medes and the Medes and the Persians couldn't be revoked. He said, if anyone tries to overthrow this law, that king will lose his kingship. And so King Darius says, well, I'm not going to mess with that. Let them carry on. And they finished the temple. It took 4 years. If you look at the dates, it took 4 years for them to finish the building of this temple. And there was a great celebration, and they celebrated the Passover. Now, there are two things I want us to see about this Passover celebration. Firstly, it was not only the 50,000 exiles that returned, but also it says those who separated themselves from the detestable practices of their neighbors. So in other words, the remnant that was left behind, remember all the poor people left behind, got involved in syncretism, worshipping of other gods, but some of them separated themselves and they were included in the Passover. What's the Passover? The Passover was a remembrance of God delivering them from Egypt, but far more important than that, pointing to a Passover lamb, Jesus, who's coming to include not only a few of the remnant who separated themselves from the world, but to be available to extend this invitation to all the nations of the world to separate themselves from what was going on in the world and to come and be united with God. Beautiful picture of the coming of Jesus.